your Filipino radio experience in Las Vegas. PHLV Radio. PHLV Radio.
Are you ready to travel? We got all the travel buzz here on Smart People TravelWise with Alvin Adriano on PHLV Radio.
Well, hello to all, and I'm excited to have you back on the show for another episode of Smart People TravelWise. I'm your host, Alvin Adriano, CEO of Travelwise International, and I'm an avid traveler. I'm really blessed to be able to share all of my exciting news, updates, and insights on this show. Well, I know all of you know travel is coming back faster than ever, and that's why we're so excited for the rest of 2022. I don't know about you, but the last 2 years have made such a big impact on my life that the next destinations that I do travel to will have a lot more meaning and fulfillment. It's one of the few things in life that we do spend on that does make us better, and I'm just really happy that the world is reopening. Now, with that said, I do have a very special guest on today, and I'm very excited to introduce her. But first, if you are watching, if you are planning to travel this year, I do want you to post a picture or a GIF or just share where you're going to be traveling to. I think a lot of people can use the inspiration. So post in the comments below where you're traveling to in 2022. I think that's important because a lot of people are still cautious right now. But honestly, people are traveling all over. So let's hear where you're traveling to and post it in the comments. And if you're watching live, hashtag live. And if you're watching on the replay, definitely hashtag replay. So thank you to everyone. Again, we're going to have a great show today. As the world reopens, many destinations have relaxed restrictions while others have begun to remove all travel protocols. And the surge of many people looking for new adventures, searching for elevated experiences. And many destinations are steadily educating the public about the beauty of their country. Outdoor activities, exotic traditions, intricate art, and unique luxuries. Many destinations boast breathtaking views, but today we'll take a look into a real gem in the desert. We'll have Megan Lower from Wanderlust Voyages, a tour operator that takes travelers on fully customizable trips throughout Morocco. They work with groups from 2 to 200 plus, from Tangier to the Sahara and everywhere in between. Megan is an American attorney who left the field of law for the travel industry. From her first trip to the Sahara Desert, Megan was in love with Morocco and wanted to share the wonders of the country with everyone. Thus, Wanderlust Voyages was born to do just that. Take people on immersive journeys through Morocco to soak up the culture, music, food, history, and more. She holds a certified travel associate certification through the Travel Institute, as well as an IATAN accreditation. She helps agents find itineraries for FITs and group tours, including transportation, lodging, guides, and activities. An enthusiastic home baker and cook, Megan loves to translate Moroccan recipes from her Moroccan in-laws for the American kitchen and is working on her second cookbook of Moroccan recipes. So please welcome the lovely Megan Lower. Hey, Megan.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It is so great to talk about Morocco. I'm always up for that.
Oh, and we're so excited. I mean, again, so many months locked in lockdown, just waiting for our inspirations to come to reality. I know we're excited to talk about Morocco, but let's talk first about how Morocco had to navigate through the pandemic. How did Morocco's tourism, how was it affected? And what were the biggest challenges that you had to overcome as a destination?
Oh, it was, as many destinations, it was very, very hard on Morocco. They began with fully closed borders for about 6 months. Mm-hmm. And then they were open for over a year. And then they just closed again from the very end of November to the beginning of this month, February 2022. So it's been a wild ride. And it has been very difficult, of course, for people on the ground. A lot of people are small operators. And one of the things that people really love about Morocco are all of the small riads and these little tiny properties that are only 5 to 8 rooms. And so there were a lot more of the little guys that were struggling because they don't have the backing of an international corporation helping them through that. So It was a very rough time for Morocco for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I think a lot of destinations were playing the, let's see what everyone else is doing. Just be cautious. I think it was like November 29th or something. And you guys just reopened February 7th, right?
Yes, that
February
is
7th. And it's funny that we don't realize how impactful tourism is in our economies, from the small, food vendors or local guides, all the way to the big corporations. Tourism has their hands in everything. And so now, I mean, how are Moroccans dealing with tourism starting to restart again? I guess international dollars coming into the business. Are people excited or still very cautious on the ground?
They're very excited. They're very ready to welcome people. There was a lot of pushback from many sides about the second closing and how long it lasted, because it was like, okay, it's 2 weeks. Now it's to the end of the year. Now it's to the end of January. Okay, now it's another week. And it was a lot. Everyone from the Minister of Health to the royal family themselves, they were not terribly happy about how long it took to reopen. And you mentioned that a lot of destinations do look at what other countries are doing. And Morocco is definitely one of them. They are highly influenced by France, I would say somewhat by Israel, and the US as well.
Oh, that's exciting. Yeah, I mean, I think today Greece just announced that they dropped all testing protocols. UK is doing the same thing. So I'm hoping that a lot of other countries around the area start doing the same thing, and we can start seeing, us slowly moving back into the normal, or, what it was pre-COVID.
Mm-hmm.
You can say something? Oh, I was going to say, like now that you're reopened, I'm sure there's still some protocols. Can you talk a little bit about what the requirements are to enter in Morocco?
Absolutely. So Morocco has finally done away with their two-list system. They used to have it split up according to country, and that was a mess. But now just all travelers across the board, you have to be fully vaccinated.
Okay.
Now, this does mean 2 doses unless you have the Johnson & Johnson or Janssen, which is only a single dose. No booster is required as of yet.
Okay.
Now, this applies to everybody 18 plus. Everybody 6 and up has to have a negative PCR test. They do not accept rapid antigen. It has to be PCR that was administered within 48 hours of travel. So not 48 hours of arrival, but when your journey begins, as long as you're on one ticket. And so this does mean that if people are perhaps, going from the US over to Spain, and then they're just going to catch a little Ryanair flight down for a while, it's going to count from that Ryanair flight, because that's not part of the same ticket as their original one. So that is something to keep in mind if you like to kind of hop around with these smaller flights. And I apologize. I think there was something. Oh, the other restrictions, they do say that when you arrive on the ground, you do have to undergo a rapid antigen test. We don't yet know how thoroughly that is being applied. I'm having a little bit of a hard time conceptualizing them being able to apply that to every single passenger.
Exactly.
So we'll see. We actually are waiting to get some feedback on some people who just arrived. And then they say it's a random selection. I have a feeling it's not going to be random at all, but looking at other factors, selecting some people where they're going to require a second PCR within 48 hours of arrival.
Okay. Oh, wow. So, I mean, again, they're relaxing it, but still a little stringent in certain ways, but they're still trying to figure it out. I mean, I think a lot of the other countries who aren't like United States, Canada, Australia, who have started relaxing a lot of their things. I think Morocco is destined to figure it out. I think a lot of these smaller countries are just waiting around to figure out what's about to happen. And as people start relaxing it, they'll do the same.
Yeah, they're really trying to focus on preventing people who are sick from getting in. And so then once you're on the ground, there's no curfew, there's no quarantine.
Megan, still there? Perfect. So, I know a lot of countries are opening up now, and people are starting to look for new destinations to travel to. So Morocco's been one of those bucket list destinations that people have heard, but maybe have not considered really traveling to. So as people are starting to decide, what makes Morocco so attractive to travel to these days?
Well, there's quite a few things. And one of the first, especially for people who live kind of on the East Coast, is that it's a lot closer than people think. A lot of people think Morocco, oh, it's an Islamic country. It's somewhere like in the Middle East. Mm-hmm. No, it is right on the northwest tip of Africa. So it's a straight shot across the Atlantic Ocean. It is anywhere from 6 to 7.5 hours, depending on what city you're flying from.
Really?
So
that's like going to California. That's crazy.
Exactly. So it's a wonderful destination of, you can hop over. And that's one thing that we are going to be kind of focusing on is for people who live in the cities where there's a direct flight, mm-hmm. is the fact that you can make it essentially a short or a long weekend trip, because the wonderful thing about the direct flights out of JFK in New York, IAD in Washington, D.C., and Miami, once that gets going again, is that the flight is overnight on the way there, mm-hmm. and then it leaves kind of mid to late afternoon on the way back, but you're still getting in at, 6, 7 p.m. So it's very convenient for making the most of your time. You're not losing an entire day to travel on both ends.
That's awesome. And that does play a factor in when you leave, because leaving at night and getting there in the morning, maximizing your time there. People don't realize, traveling through different time zones and sleeping through it makes a big difference when you arrive, because you never want to be this tired, because flying does take a lot out of you.
Exactly. And so in addition to that, it's such a unique culture. It's something that a lot of Americans especially have not experienced, with the various, the history, the culture, the music, the food, the architecture. So much of it is so foreign to Americans. And it's this incredible immersion. You go to a lot of Europe and things are still pretty familiar, but you go into the Fez Medina and you're taking a step back in time almost. Yeah. And the fact that you can get all of that and still be so close, that's incredible. And then, of course, it's also very, very safe. There's something that I will, full disclosure, if you look on the American State website, the travel.gov, they have forever had Morocco listed as, at the very least a 2 because of terrorism. Yeah. There has not been any terrorist attack in over a decade. And how many have we had in US and Canada and France and, all these other places where everybody else assumes it's safe. And Morocco is incredibly, incredibly safe. So you have all of those 3. It just makes it a wonderful destination for anybody to visit.
Well, thank you for sharing. I love that. I think that's really important that, I think right now, I think the whole world is level 4. I mean, I think there's like 11 green countries that the CDC or the travel CDC has said it's okay to travel to. So like everything is do not. And so, and it gives you perspective, although, it's like saying the whole United States is dangerous. When people say stuff like, it's like, and there's different countries, different areas, there's different areas that are more prone to that type of violence. And that's why they have those, and they're advisories. They're not they're not do not enter. They're just advisories to be warned.
Right.
So, and I love the fact that you put that out there, because a lot of people may be turned off and may not consider this destination when really they're missing out on a brand new adventure that they would never experience if they didn't have real people telling them exactly what the experience was like.
Yes, absolutely.
So, we talk about like the unique traditions, the riads, but Marrakesh, Casablanca, but what are some unique attractions that really stand out in Morocco, or that you would recommend for people to see out there?
So there are 2 major favorites. And of course, they are in very different parts of the country. So it's really hard to get them into one trip. But Chefchaouen, which is the Blue City, a lot of people have seen pictures of it lately. It's been really big, especially on Instagram. Any traveler who goes there has incredible pictures because it really is blue. The walls, the stairs, the alleyways, it's all blue. And it's this charming little town that is in the Reef Mountains. And so because it's so close to the Mediterranean, it doesn't get too cold. It doesn't get as snowy as like parts of the Atlas Mountains. And it's a great little experience outside of the big city. You know, it was once a sacred city that was closed to outsiders. And so it didn't grow as big as some of the other cities and didn't become like a city center in any way. And then the other place would be the Sahara Desert, specifically around Merzouga. So many people want to go to the Sahara because it is an incredible experience. The big thing that I can compare it to, I grew up in Arizona, and I always compare it to the Grand Canyon. You can see pictures and it's beautiful and everything, but the feeling that you get is not the same unless you're there in person, just the vastness of it. And that's how I feel in the Sahara Desert, the red dunes, and you get out there to where it's just, you know, dunes and sky and a couple scrubby little bushes for the camels to chew on. And it's a long way from anywhere else in Morocco, but it is so worth the trip.
Oh, I love that. I mean, I think it's amazing. Yeah, you're right. When the first time I went to Grand Canyon, it's just so grandiose. I mean, you're just, it's so, you know, you think about how long it took for this natural, you know, a phenomenon to be created, and you're just immersed by it and you're surrounded by it. It's a very uplifting type of experience. And I can't imagine being in a desert. You know, you talk about it and you can say, but just the silence and the peace, the harmony of the sky and the earth put together. I mean, I've traveled a lot of places, and that's one of the places that I have added on my bucket list.
Yes.
One day.
Yes. Hopefully we'll get you there soon.
Sure. Yeah. And that, well, you were mentioning, you know, again, different parts of the country, and it being able to, you know, 6-hour, 7-hour flight. But what would you recommend as you know, typical lengths of stay? I mean, is overnight, I mean, a weekend good enough, or 5, 6, 7 days?
So it really depends on what you want to see. If you just want to see, kind of hang out in Marrakesh and the surrounding area, sure, you can do that in 4 or 5 days. If you want to see the imperial cities, you can do that in a week. If you want to add on Chefchaouen or the Sahara, you really need 9 or 10 days. It is. So one of the big things to know about Morocco, we get very used to in the US, you know, everything is in a way almost close. It is, I can drive down to New York and from Boston, and it's essentially a day trip. We've gone down there for a dinner meeting before and driven back. Like, no big deal. But in Morocco, when you're first of all, domestic flights are few and far between. Very difficult to plan a route through Morocco using domestic flights. So you really have to rely on driving. We absolutely recommend a private driver. Do not try to drive yourself. That is unneeded stress. But when you're going from, you know, Fez to the Sahara, or the Sahara over to Marrakesh, it is a long way because you're going over mountains and they are very winding. You know, I always, you know, comment that, okay, from Ouarzazate or around Ait Ben Haddou to Marrakesh, it is about 120 kilometers. Okay, great. On the highway, that would be like an hour. It takes about 4, maybe 4.5 hours to make that drive because it is so winding. So it's, a lot of times people think that they can fit a lot more in than they can. So we really have to talk to people about what's most important if they have a limited amount of time. But no matter how much time they have, there's some amazing things you can experience.
That's awesome. Managing expectations, because again, people have think they have portals. They can just jump from here or there. I want to go here on the first day, Sahara that day, and then Casablanca next. You know, those are like a couple 100 miles away from each other. Exactly. Yeah, we'll make it work.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You know, and again, that's this perspective of why people should travel and not just think like I can get the same through a book or through a video. That's the reason why people travel, to get a real life experience and really understand how different people in the world live their lives and how we can take from that and learn from that. But tourism is a major economic driver to many destinations, which has led a boom in local and in-country tourism. So I know there's a lot of innovations, but will there be any surprises or new destinations popping up for international tourists who haven't been in the country in a while?
So I would say one of the biggest things, it's very niche, but with the approval for direct flights from Israel to Morocco, there has been a large influx of Jewish travelers. And so there used to be almost no Jewish restaurants or kosher restaurants in the country. There's like a couple in Casablanca that were actually overseen, and there have now been more and more opening up. Wow. In Marrakesh. And so that is fantastic. And a lot more hotels are able to accommodate that, which is also amazing. Another really exciting thing that is in the works and not quite, some of it's completed, some of it isn't, but one of the things that a lot of people like to do is a hot air balloon ride.
Oh, okay.
And so far, that's really only been in Marrakesh, because, of course, it needs to be someplace where it's safe to do so. And also with the fact that there's royal palaces all over the place, that does have some additional restrictions regarding air travel and airspace. But there is now going to be hot air balloon rides in Agadir, which is on the coast. And so doing sunrise with the ocean on one side and kind of looking towards the mountains on the other. And then also something that is underway and hopefully done soon is going to be hot air balloons in the Sahara Desert.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's going to be an incredible experience, just with how close it is to the Algerian border. A little more red tape, but again, that's something that is in the works, and we are so excited. We cannot wait for that to happen. The guy who's the first one getting the permissions to do that is a partner of ours. And so as soon as he has that paperwork, we're going to have him out there.
That's so awesome. And I love that. I mean, that's what people are looking for, other experiences that elevate their vacation, memorable experiences that last for a lifetime. And I wanted to circle back to what you were saying about having partners, and you guys being tour operators, specialists in Morocco. How do you guys, how do you guys create unique experiences for clients? And, how far do you guys go when it comes to customizable vacations?
The big thing is that, first of all, my husband, Bilgit, is the one who is from Morocco. A lot of people wonder, how is she clearly American? So, gives her the expertise in Morocco. Well, it's because my husband is born from down the Sahara Desert. He knows Morocco so well, and he is one of those people who knows how to make connections, whatever he needs. And so it's really been through every time we go, we are meeting new people, learning more things. We hear about something and say, well, okay, what about this? Who can do this for us? And sometimes we have requests from people who say, can this happen in Morocco? And we'll say, okay, well, give us a moment. Let us talk to how we can make that happen. And so in terms of customability, is that a word? Customizability, is that whichever one of those? We can customize it in any way they would like. If there's something people are interested in, all they have to do is ask, and we can figure out, first of all, is there a way to do it? And then where can we do it? So one of the things that we've been doing is a lot of people like hands-on experiences. And so we have worked with our guides to work with artisans in Fez and Marrakesh in the Sahara to create experiences where people can learn to do mosaics. They can learn about the metal stamping, about the weaving, about how to make, Moroccan leather slippers. And some of these things, some of them, you hear about one or two people who have done it. Other ones I've never heard of someone doing. I'm just someone who's been there and I'm like, I would love to see this. And so we just talk to people and figure out how to get it done. Morocco is very much a land of, yeah, we can probably do that. So no matter what it is, they'll just say, okay, well, we'll figure it out. We can do it.
Awesome. Oh man, that's so great. I mean, again, when you go to places, you don't know what to expect. I mean, you see pictures, but when you get the locals to tell you where to go and how to see things and their perspective, it really makes it a better vacation, because it's not a cookie cutter type of package, or you're not following, a preset tour. You're actually hearing and understanding why it's valuable or why it's a place of importance for these people.
Absolutely.
So, looking towards the future, I mean, what is the outlook for 2022 and 2023? Do you guys think you'll hit pre-pandemic levels during this year, or maybe one more year of patiently waiting?
I think we're definitely going to go back into recovery. Whether we're going to be at pre-pandemic levels, I think that's going to take a couple more years, because Moroccan tourism was really booming right before everything happened. And so it was the highest it had been, I think, ever. Wow. So that's why it's going to take a little bit more time to get all the way back up there, but it is looking very promising. A couple of the things, we've had some tours that we had to cancel from spring of 2020 that are now finally going this year. And another thing that we have done a lot of is kind of getting into some more golf tournaments. And so we're going to be bringing some large groups there. So we are seeing things increase a lot more steadily. And ever since the announcement of reopening borders, we've already seen people ready and willing to go. And so I think we are kind of reaching the point in the pandemic of people are just like, all right, this is now the new normal, and I'm going to figure out how to go and enjoy life and just mitigate risks where I can.
I do want to, we didn't talk about this earlier, but you mentioned it, and it was golf. I never thought about Morocco being a golf destination, but do you have beautiful golf ranges out there, or?
Oh, absolutely. So the royal family in Morocco is longtime golfers. So there are some amazing golf, and not tournaments. There are some amazing golf courses throughout the country. And some of them are part of a series of royal golf courses that are owned by the royal family. The king also has a couple of exclusive golf courses that nobody gets to play without invitation from him. And that includes like his brother. So his brother is a major golfer as well. And there's also, and he's one of the people who's really helping to promote golf in Morocco. And there's even the Hassan II Cup and the Lala Miriam Cup. So the men's and the women's, they are events on the PGA Tour. Wow. So it is absolutely a wonderful golf destination. Marrakesh is where you're going to find most of it, but everywhere, even as, up in El Hoceima, in Tangier, in Fez, in the Atlas Mountains, there's this wonderful course, Mishlifin. It's the first Jack Nicklaus course in the country, and it's absolutely stunning. Wow. So plenty for people who are golfers to see and do there.
I'm so glad you shared, because I'm not a golfer, but a lot of people do travel for golf, and that's one of those big passions. And I definitely have, if I ever go to Morocco, I know the tip is learn how to play golf and maybe never, who knows, be included in the royal family if I know golf enough, right? That's so exciting. Again, like those are the things that we don't realize about destinations because we get pre-programmed to think a certain way or not know all the amenities of a destination. So I'm glad to have you on here to kind of explain all of the things that we're missing out by not traveling to Morocco.
Yes.
So I know, like, it's been a challenging time and we're constantly innovating through this crisis, but we always try to keep things positive. Is there something that you can share that was positive throughout this pandemic that really kind of hopefully continues on after this?
Yes, that would be the fact that we have gotten the chance to slow down, regroup, and kind of replan. And that was something that I mentioned, the levels right before everything happened, highest pretty much ever. And so we were just running and, getting new staff. And it's like, okay, but I don't really have time to train you. And we don't have time to send you to Morocco. So you don't entirely know. And just the fact that we've been able to kind of breathe, regroup, start getting some more planning going and some other partnerships, like I mentioned, getting involved more with the golf, as well as a couple of projects that we have undertaken, which we've managed to complete our camp down in the Sahara, get the approval for our riad that we're building it down there as well, and writing a cookbook that we have one that is more just kind of baked sweets and such, and now I'm working on another that is going to incorporate not only a lot of traditional dishes and a lot of family dishes, but a lot of dishes from our favorite restaurants and hotels in the area, in the country. And so it's going to be kind of part travel book, part cookbook, because times I've eaten at so many amazing restaurants. And so now I get to go to them and say, hey, can I have a recipe from you? Which is wonderful.
Girl, you put a lot of people to shame. That's what you did in the pandemic. Some people just, I just started running, but I wrote a book. I did a lot of new projects. That's awesome. I love it. But that's how entrepreneurs think. They think about what they can do. They don't waste time. They take every opportunity to leverage their talents, their skills, so that they can benefit. And I love the fact that you did all of that in this time, because it really, that's how we realize who leaders and people will be successful, because when things go awry, they just figure out ways to innovate and just look at challenges as opportunities to find new solutions. So I love that you're able to do that.
Thank you.
So again, I do appreciate you coming out here and sharing all the beauties of Morocco. But for any of our viewers and listeners, do you have any last minute tips and advice that you can share?
So I would say my two big things. If you're wanting to go to Morocco, one, talk to someone who's familiar. I mean, of course, I would say talk to me, but even if not, get someone who actually knows the country, because research will show you, trying to research online, you're going to find a lot of different things. And especially for your American audience, you're going to find some packages or options out there that they're like, oh yeah, just go from Marrakesh to the Sahara Desert for one night. And because some people do that, but I can tell you, you don't actually want to do that. So talk to someone who knows the country well and can talk about it. And the other thing, I mentioned it briefly before, but do not expect to drive yourself. It is an utter nightmare. Between the rules of the road, the winding mountains, the fact that GPS can not always be trusted. It will refuse to reroute you and insist on taking you down places where you should not be driving. And then the fact that you can't park everywhere. And so if you're staying in the Medina, you have no idea where you need to park and how are you going to find that? And it's just more headache than it's worth. get a driver if you're going through the country. If you're just in Marrakesh, plan on just using taxis and such. But I'd say those are the two things.
Awesome. Just be on vacation. Don't drive, just be on vacation.
Exactly.
Let us handle it.
Especially because then you have someone who is with you, who can answer questions, who can give information, who is a local and it speaks English.
Yeah.
So it's also a huge thing for people, because unfortunately Americans are very not as likely to speak other languages. Yeah. So having someone who can help you translate is invaluable.
That's awesome. And again, to get connected more and learn more about the destination, having a local explain it to you is so much more influential in your on your trip. So I definitely love your advice, and I hopefully more travelers take heed and, you know, don't try to plan it on themselves, but really talk to a local so they can get a really better feel for your country. So thank you again, Megan, for coming on. I really appreciate you being able to share some of your insights.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us, and we hope to have you in Morocco soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan.
Thanks.
So I'm really always appreciative to all of our guests who introduce us to some places that we've yet to go. The world is such a beautiful place, and no wonder that we dare not find new places that are just bustling with so much color and traditions. Morocco is famed for the markets, colorful riads, and the rolling Sahara sand dunes. And Morocco, I feel, will be one of the hottest destinations going for the end of this year to next year. So I urge all the viewers to add this to their bucket list and plan to go soon. With preferred partners like Wanderlust Voyages, we are fortunate to offer some amazing itineraries ranging from 5 to 7 days, or for even longer ones like 10 to 14. But again, fully customizable and always offering unique experiences. But we urge all of our viewers to assess your comfortability level. But as more countries drop their restrictions and testings, many people will be discovering new places. And I hope our program can be able to bring you closer to inspire you all to find new destinations. Again, thank you for all the viewers and listeners who are able to spend a few minutes of your day to learn more about the travel industry. And please don't forget to catch our show every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Pacific time or 3 p.m. East Coast time on PHLV radio. Or you can even catch us on the PHLV radio app, which is available on all iOS and Apple devices. Now, if you want to stay tuned for our latest episode, go to bit.ly/Smart People TravelWise and click on the bell and click follow. You'll get notified for upcoming shows and episodes. And of course, if you're looking for a travel advisor to create an experience and not manage your own vacation, you can reach out to our award-winning travel agency, Travelwise International, by visiting us at www.itravelwise.com or contacting us at 301-248-8898. So thank you again to all our viewers and listeners. Please stay safe. And until next time, smart people, travel wise.
This is your Filipino radio experience in Las Vegas. PHLV Radio.